Hello, 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 and welcome to the UpSet podcast. It's Sunday evening. Are you guys ready? Of course, I have to bring on the crew before I ask that. Are you guys ready?
Hey, man. Hey, family.
Sunday.
I saw the new pictures there. I saw the new pictures. Yeah.
That was from our broadcast last week, as a matter of fact. So,
I was waiting for GP to sell me some incense.
Assalamu
With his
alaikum.
beanie hat.
Nick, I got you some comments. You good?
Oh yeah, man. Well, my lips are so large, I end up using Mop and Glow, but it works for me.
oh my, how? Hey, what's up, everybody?
Where's the drum roll? We need the drum roll.
We need it. It's Sunday, so you know how we like to start. What are some of the topics that are circling around either on your timeline and your conversations with people? What's
Man, I tell you, I'm just excited about a Black female Supreme Court judge coming. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am too. I really am. That's going to be.
Yeah, I'll chime in. Aside from football, yesterday there was an interview featuring Theodore Wilson, the president of the General Conference. And it was interesting to see him do the good old Adventist two-step around all those questions and to navigate that interview. It was funny and sad at the same time. And a lot of people are pissed off.
Yeah.
Was it recorded? Was it recorded?
It's still on live on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay.
Hey, Justin, from now on, when you got comments like this, email them to me and I'll say them for you.
No, you're gonna get me with no filter on the UpSet podcast.
I'm trying to help you establish a career.
Not put a filter on your check.
My career is established in Christ. All right.
Woo!
I found that's good for heaven, but it's bad for your pension plan. So.
But while that was going on, our very own Charles,
Chuck, yes,
on another program, Pastors Roundtable, he was an expert guest talking about media ministry for small churches. So that was also nice. We share that on our Facebook page. So if you want to check out that,
that was worth watching. Not the ORC interview with Ted Wilson.
Wow, I said that,
we
everybody.
ORC and
I said that, and I got, it was coming out of GP's mouth, but I actually said that.
The retired man. That's right.
He's not afraid. He's not afraid.
Look, that's why you're going to see little Elizabeth's hand grab him by the collar and say, "Look." But
that's pamper money you talking about,
right?
I've been still a professional singer. He's got a career.
He's got all sorts of stuff going on.
Marlene said he got options.
That's right.
I have been really interested in the ongoing conversation that was generated from the good Reverend Todd out in Oklahoma, his church service that I have entitled "When the Spit Hits the Fan." There's a good article that appeared that's talking about the fact that now that all of us as pastors have had to become television people, we're all video people now, that there is a pressure on pastors to perform beyond simply speaking. And is that performance portfolio, based on the pandemic, is it beginning to outstrip the fact that we are called simply to preach the gospel? I mean, it's and there's some real good discussions going on about that.
I think it's good. I think it's good to have that discussion. But I think the thing that has happened to me now is for me to realize that the gospel and the gospel alone should be on the table. That the whole performance thing, you're bound to mess up and say something that you're not supposed to say. Like GP who's talking about you pissed off. It's things like that. That you on the pulpit saying that, it's gonna be a problem. He can say it in the podcast, but not on the pulpit.
Hey, it may just be the pressure. We're talking today about pandemic pressure and some of the effects that come with that.
Pandemic anger.
So, Pat, break it down for us. Well,
here's the thing. How come Marlena didn't open this one? Because she's the one that came on strong with this. Like,
oh my goodness!
Like she carries a baseball bat in the back of her car.
That's just a little research, buddy. A little research. That was it.
Can I mention what was on my radar? This I realized my mixer was muted. All the chatter
hold on,
about
I'm
Spotify.
The same guy that we're talking about.
Yeah, I know. I forgot to unmute me, right?
He's trying to give us a chance. That's all.
All the chatter and headlines about Spotify and this little row with Neil Young and Joe Rogan and all, and think what you will of it. People were on one side or the other side, but I think on the grand scheme of things, we are looking at the beginnings of squelching freedom of speech. Now, a lot of people say, well, he spread a lot of disinformation and whatever. Okay, understood.
Yeah.
However, when the social networks start getting into squelching speech, we're going down a slippery slope.
Come on.
And I just think that, we need to look at the grand scheme of things with that. Be careful, because someday, as the definition of misinformation and disinformation is changing, someday they might say to us that the narrative is Sunday is the only day of worship.
Sure.
Well, and if you preach otherwise, you're disinformation and we could take you down. I'm just saying that might be exaggerating a lot, but don't, keep that in mind. I think we're starting to go down a slippery slope.
Wow.
Good point, Charles.
That's tough. That's tough.
That's a show by itself. I don't even know why you came out with that.
But also, guys, it's slippery times too, because misinformation causes deaths. I mean, people die. Get rid of the voice being spoken. I mean, Satan is just really causing a lot of confusion there. Which of the two evils do you allow?
Mercy, something to think about. Wow.
Pat, no pressure, though. No pressure.
I know, right?
Yeah, no pressure, right? No pressure. Good grief. Listen, I remember February 2020 when we were talking about this China thing that's coming upon us and how we're going to handle that, and the sweep and how quick it came to us that we got to the point of shutting down everything. By shutting down everything, March. Hold on, guys. I think that's me. Hold on. I think that's me.
We interrupt this special broadcast.
I'm hearing the echo. I think I'm hearing the echo.
Well, that's because what you're saying is so important that the Lord wants it repeated.
You know what?
Oh my goodness!
Producer, start the whole show over again. I'm not sure if you can go ahead and do that.
We live, baby. Let's roll.
And here's what it is, right? Here we got this. We got people fighting over toilet paper, fighting over Lysol, and who knew that it will be bigger than having WWF in the WWF in Walmart to now spreading out to the streets. And now spreading out to our cars. All that due to COVID-19, there has been a rise. We know this. There has been a rise in anger, and not just anger, but also confronting others on whether they're positive, negative, or whether they're taking the vaccines or not. So the reason why we're here together is because we're having this fireside chat, all of us, because it has affected all of us. I know for a fact that it has affected me. Today, I was on a flight coming back from Florida. This guy was wearing a mask that says, "This mask does not work," just like Biden. And, I kind of wanted, when I was walking in the aisle, to be pushed a little bit so I could catch an elbow on the side of his neck.
And be in jail, right?
But I was falling and I couldn't get up. But I could tell you how I felt. There was something that burned right here, right? Because not only was it about the pandemic, but it was also about Biden, who I voted for. And I'll just put it out there like that. But it's gotten crazy. We got fighting on the planes due to wearing masks. That I even stepped out of the plane and what was the statement was like, "I'll turn this plane around if you fight in the plane." And what bothers me more than anything else is we have grown-ups doing this. We have adults that's doing this, down to the point where, can I just switch this real quick? Schools.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it should be in virtual or should be in person, they're outside of these board meetings, pushing and shoving and kicking and screaming at each other. What kind of example is that to the children who see this? And especially, Charles, I know you like this part, the media who put those things on for everyone to be able to see it.
Right.
So,
it's interesting you bring that up because, I was going to share something I found from an article from Neuroscience News. There was an article published by a Dr. Stephanie Marcy. She's on staff at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. And she said, similar to what where you were going, Pat, with this, is that the prevalence of anxiety. Well, she says the summary of her article was the prevalence of anxiety symptoms in children and adolescents has doubled since before the COVID pandemic.
That's right.
And she goes on to say some other interesting things, but I want to come back to her article because I was really enlightened with her observation of how our society, we can talk about here because it's affected, globally, how this pandemic and the way we handled it has damaged not only the adults, but damaged the children.
Right. And I'm telling you, we could take the time to do something or to be able to talk about how to even help our children make it through this, because really the adults, we're kind of set in our ways and we still have time to be able to work with them as far as they're concerned. Because I'm going to tell you, the pandemic has a whole lot more. It has affected our children a whole lot more than we think it has affected them. But then again, to watch parents and to watch adults behave the way they behave. One thing I want to do real quick before we go forward, I want to ask those who are in the chat who's following us right now, do you find yourself with a short fuse because of the pandemic? You don't have to give the point. I see a friend of mine, Warren Jefferson, on. I'm not talking about, you stealing cars now and all of that. What I'm talking about, do you find yourself with a short fuse?
You might want to ask our people, do you find yourself with a shorter fuse?
Yeah. I know, right?
With a shorter fuse. And then I like to ask us around the table here. I mean, do we find that our fuse are a whole lot shorter? I want to throw it out.
Well, I know we're waiting for people to.
Oh, Yanni said she hasn't.
She has, but
and I'm certainly grateful for that, Yanni.
Yeah, right.
I noticed you were naming all these groups. I was waiting for you to talk about the church because I've seen a lot of anger, like sides of the coin, closing church, opening church, virtual church versus in-person.
Ultimately, we haven't done a good job. We really haven't, in my opinion.
You mean as far as managing opening and closing our churches? Or?
Well, no, managing the ripple effect of this closing and suddenly changing the everyday openness and interaction with church members. I mean, it all came to a screeching halt. Mm-hmm. And I think it had a special effect on our churches and members because we're so social and we're so interactive and we have a lot of things that we do, and not just Adventist Church, but all churches, all social groups that are just, I mean, they live to, relate. And now all of that came to a screeching halt, and that was traumatic for a lot of people,
Marlena, go.
Yeah. You see my lips, I'm ready to say something, right? Mm-hmm. I just want to say the pandemic has done so much physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and I mean, is certainly global. Sure. But when we see the damage, mentally, people are depressed, psychological changes. They did studies on the children, and they found out that the children were so depressed by even just staying home and not being able to come out and socialize, and also because they were on social media, the kind of things maybe that they got involved with, looking at, on social media, some bad stuff can pop up, and it was even shown or noticed that even in school, even in Christian school, because have a lot of friends and families who are school teachers, the children are different. And not only are the children different, the parents are different, right? And so church members are different. I mean, as Pastor when Chuck was saying that, we kind of haven't done a good job. I guess that falls on us pastors, because we would need to be able to explain to our people more. But after all
Not
this
just the
preaching,
pastors.
well,
Not just the
I mean,
pastors.
right.
In fact, I think the pastors tried gallantly to guide the members. I'm just saying, between members, it was a tough time. It was a tough transition. In fact, I would go so far as to say, if it were not for the pastors, our churches really would fall apart.
Well, let me just.
Is there any way I can kiss Charles through the microphone and the screen?
Well, just move to the right a little bit.
Okay.
I think to this right.
He's
To the other right.
There you go.
I think one of the things, and Chuck, you're right about that. But one of the things I would have loved to see in all churches across the board is how to handle crisis. Because
but that's what we do all the. I mean,
that's what I was going to say. That Tally, I was going to say that. That is, people think pastors get up and they preach, and that's all they do all day long. You pastors, and I say you pastors, you know what I mean by that. I mean, I'm not in a pulpit right now, but you handle crisis every single day. It's not like just on Saturdays and just on Wednesdays. There's always crisis. I think what we really needed in this point is crisis management that's continually running, because it's changing every day. Everything is changing as far as this is concerned. So I do agree. I do agree with that. I want to know. I'm sorry, Latasha, you was going?
No, I was just going to say, I think when it first started, we just thought it was going to be temporary. Right. So we didn't go into that mode of really planning out how this thing would go. And so that's kind of where.
Yeah, but also, too, let me say this real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, I sure don't want Tally and Marlena fighting. So with this fuse,
this is 2022. I love Tally. It's a new day. But until he says something crazy. But but I just want to say, remember, the whole nation was shut down at the same time.
Yeah.
And so the world. But I mean, the U.S. shut down. Sure. Nations were doing their own thing separately. But so it was. I mean, it's a tough time, guys. It's experiences that we hadn't gone through before. So it was a lot to learn. And I think over time, that's why it's important to stay connected with your people. And I can't say that we have been really successful with that as a church. We might have connected with some, but not everybody. And so, some people fell through the cracks, and then people are depressed and not seeing each other, angry. They forget all the studies we've done. I thought about all those Revelation seminars that people begged about. And then after we did all that, and you tell me the mark of the beast is a vaccination, please.
Yeah, right.
I was like, man, did you forget everything? Right.
Yep,
and so it's, and even now, when we're out of, well, we're not out of it, but at least we're allowed to come out, right? But you have to protect yourself, protect others. If that's what you believe. I mean, it's so hard because some believe you still don't have to wear masks. I don't fight with people anymore. I don't fight with anybody, and that just believes I'm just coming to your funeral.
Really? Let me throw this.
Did I miss a day?
I'm just coming to your funeral. I decided I'm not fighting anymore. I'm just.
Well, let me throw it out there.
Or any less.
Here we are talking about about anger, short fuses, whatever the case may be. We kind of skirted over it. It's happening even in our church.
Yeah.
You could see online when church is opening again. Oh, I ain't going. I'm not. You see this back and forth. And I know that we have pastors that's here, whichever. How do we communicate with each other? I mean, I really need help with this, because our members need help with this. There are some members who are not going to get vaccinated. Some members who don't want to wear masks, they're not coming to church for you to stick a thermometer up to their head. They're not coming for that. But how do we deal with that? And I think that's something that we need to discuss. How do we deal with that on a membership standpoint?
Can I draw? One of the comments was from Beverly P. Gordon.
Sure.
And for those of you who don't know, that's Dr. Beverly Gordon. She is a mental health professional. She's a counselor and a therapist. And she said that her views hasn't changed, but the pandemic has affected her in other ways. And I was just kind of wondering, and I mean, I was her pastor for a while, and she doesn't know this, but she was my unpaid psychologist. I just called, how you doing, Sister Gordon? Yeah, everything okay?
Non-paid employee.
After a half hour later, she, I've been on her couch and she didn't know. But
keep calling him, Dr. Gordon. Keep calling him.
What are the other ways that might have impacted her? Because I know that she is a trained observer, and I figure if it's something that's impacted her other ways, maybe we need to understand what other kind of ways people may have been impacted.
Before she answers, it's going to take a while for her to answer, and I like that. Yeah. Can I come out and tell you that
we've been waiting for you to come out? Finally.
You coming out the closet?
I mean, the pressure that's on
Natalie?
this man.
Oh boy, here we go.
Wow. I want you to know I have no judgment.
Patrick, are you suddenly going to lose connection?
Yeah, well, no, I'm not. What I wanted was my cup, and I didn't have my. There she goes. She has her cup, and I should have put something in it. It would have kept me calm. Yes. So with the spiritual shoes and all of that, I want to tell you something. I'm claustrophobic.
Oh.
But here's the strange piece about being claustrophobic. You would think that I'm claustrophobic, small spaces, just small spaces alone. But I'm claustrophobic mentally. So if I feel that I'm mentally being closed in, it affects me. I react the same way that I would react as though I were having a dream I was in a coffin or in a small place. The truth is that the claustrophobia attacks me in a place where the word control comes about. So, for example, I can be in a small room, but I have to be able to control the doorknob. Do you understand what I'm saying? So nothing will happen.
No, we didn't notice that need for control and never hit us at all.
Thanks, Nick. So here's why I say that. I say that to say that I can't control this pandemic.
That's right.
And I can't control, whether schools are going to be open or it's going to be closed, and when another booster is going to come around. I can't control those things. So really, and I don't want to get down to the end before the beginning, but really I have to heighten my relationship with God because I would be in a panic state all the time. That's where my panic comes from.
Rhonda wants to know if this is a genetic predisposition.
Yeah, Paul is.
Being in the womb, she might be on something.
Yeah, he should have moved over in the womb. I'd have been all right. Yes, Paul is claustrophobic.
I want to go back to that article that I mentioned earlier, because it bridges two things that we were talking about, and the condition of our youth and the condition of our adults. Dr. Marcy says in this article, she says that she says, help your child get good sleep, physical activity, and proper nutrition. Try to spend time outside in nature. Now, this is with dealing with children who are caught up in this lockdown. Finally, she says, parents need to model self-care by giving themselves the time and space to achieve a sense of calm, peacefulness, and self-regulation. Even a few minutes of reprieve from their stress can go a long way. So then she finally says, the practice is about letting your child borrow your calm.
Come on.
Rather than share your chaos. But first, you have to create your own calm for them to borrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very good.
Wow.
It's very important because children will mimic what they see. And I was also reading an article, Chuck, that talked about, that anger is an emotion. right? And it shouldn't be a behavior, right? And that the anger can be useful in handling situations, but when it becomes aggressive and volatile, that's when you're messing up. And the children see our parents acting crazy.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, when you have issues at the school board and they're fighting, against the school board, and right now people are doing what they think is right in their own eyes. You can't please millions of people, and so you've got school boards that's trying to do stuff to please people, and the parents not buying it. Even in Christian school, help me in this place. Christian schools are, I mean, folk acting up, and the teachers get the hard end of the bargain. And let me say this too, because I have passion. Let me say this. You don't know what your children are doing when you're not around.
True.
You don't know how your children are acting. And so many people, oh, that's not my child. My child don't act like that. Yes, they do. When you're not around, they act a fool.
Marlena done jumped from pandemic to
I'm talking post-pandemic.
child guidance.
But listen, I'm talking post-pandemic. This is why I want you. I remember, I'm a parent. I got 2 children. I know what I'm talking about. And the school teacher called me and told me something my boys did. And he said, Mom, it's the teacher. And I said, look, she don't have time to babysit you like that. You're supposed to sit in class and do what you're supposed to do. I said, I'm going to be for that teacher. Man, I got no more crazy messages from them after I told them I'm not falling for your foolishness, right? And so one thing that the article said, that if you, in coping with your anger, right? If you, I mean, I know some bad school teachers too, but you got to know, right? Find out, don't just make an assumption, right? If you, in handling your anger, kind of walk in the footsteps of the other person that you disagree with, understand, where they're coming from. So we're talking about the school board. Most of the anger is behind a mask and vaccination, right? Well, you can't make anybody, get vaccinated. You can only encourage, but wearing a mask, maybe you're keeping the teacher safe, when your child is wearing the mask. Maybe your child is being safe. It's just so much information that the anger is all over the place, and people believe everything their child says, and I want you to know that when you're young, you're tempted to lie.
Yeah.
You're young and old.
And old, right? Marlene, I want to go both with that. I think our parents need to be aware of what's happening with their children and watch the changes being made.
But what about when you deny it?
Yeah, well, that's where you use that's where and it's going to be the parents. What we're talking about here is we're not talking about our children. We're talking about the adults. We're talking about us who are affected by the pandemic. Now, let me just say this real quick.
But it affects children too, Pat.
No, I agree with you. But I do think it has a domino effect that we can do something about it. Adults can do something about it by fixing ourselves first before we, if you're on a plane, you give the oxygen you give the oxygen. You give the oxygen to yourself first, right? Before you give it to the kid. Let your kid go ahead and die. But here's the thing: y'all made me come out
again.
How many times you gonna?
I know y'all made me to talk about my claustrophobia, and I think that Dr. Gordon has some negative effects, so that she could come out too with me, and so because Tally is not going to admit that he cries in the corner because of this pandemic.
I want to be really, on the negative, that feeling of disconnect, and look, Dr. Gordon, I trust me, I get it, and for me, it's compounded by the fact that I have lost my church, my pulpit, and even though I sincerely believe that it was time, nothing has ever impacted me like this. Nothing. Wow. I stood over my father's bed when he died. I was 17. It was November the 27th, 2:30 in the morning. And he died right there. And I stood on my sister's bed when she died, my mother. But this is not being the pastor of the West Philadelphia Church. It messed with me. And the reason I retired when I did is because the pandemic got to me. It was the funerals. It was too much. and I didn't have the help that I thought I needed, and it was too much. And I don't mean that from my church. I mean that in getting some assistance through, you know, an associate or something like that. And I'm not blaming anybody. I stretched out too far. But yeah, that disconnect thing is, and Daphne, I'm not, you know, I'm only retired from the pulpit. Trust me, I still have a radio program every day. We're launching several different projects, and then I'm the convener of a 501c3 in the city. So I've got a lot to do still.
And we're trying to get him to date somebody. Go ahead, finish.
But you know, the disconnect thing is real. But I'd like to lay something else on you guys.
Lay it.
It's more ecclesiological than it is theological, and that is this. The greatest cause for anger and disruption is when people perceive that their entitlements are breached. The reason why white people are angry in the United States is because they feel that what they are entitled to is being taken away. And we all live with the illusion of control. And when it comes to religion, nobody that I know lives with a greater illusion of control than Adventists, because we feel that if we pay tithe, keep Sabbath, and eat, you know, chocolates, we won't get cancer. We'll always keep a job, and nothing will go wrong. And then this thing comes along, and everything goes off tracks. And it's like, well, God, this is not supposed to happen to me because I do all the right things. Therefore, I should get only the right results. And that illusion of control is what causes us to become angry.
Wow.
I agree with that.
And and then too, control, losing family members. I mean, this COVID took out multiple family members in one family, you know, so just think about that pain. That's why I said it affects so many people in various ways. So you think of people suffering physically, who, you know, were sick. Look, even aftermath changes. I mean, I had COVID in 2020, and it affected my memory. I lost a lot of hair. I can't remember stuff now. I don't even remember everything about Tally. It's tough. You know?
I was waiting for you to give me back that $1,000.
Now I remember that. I did not borrow it. But you know, so when you cope with what's happened to you, I mean, and some people are really struggling with endurance capacity because of their lungs being so affected, so they can't do the things they used to do. You know, some struggle for months, neurological issues. You know, there's so much that this virus did to people. And so when you see the response, you know, some of it, you know, can be controlled, and then some you really need professional help.
Yes.
Oh, can I just add this in? One of the articles that we presented said that you need to tell somebody how you feel. One of the things that the pandemic has done is it made our circles smaller.
That's true.
And you know, there's some, like you say, when you go to church, there's this person that you always talk to. They're not there anymore. When I say they're not there, not that they have passed, but you don't have the opportunity of speaking to them, whatever age group that it might be. So one of the things that I'd like to put out there to everyone is to find someone to talk to, where they may not answer back, but it's something to get off your chest. I just want to throw that at you. But let me bring this out. Social media. I bother my Caribbean parents about WhatsApp. You know how they pay attention to everything that comes on WhatsApp. I bother them about that. But one of the things, we ought to be careful about social media. How does social media impact our fear and anger? Fear and anger. How does it?
Well, I have to say, you know, I know we were talking about kids earlier, and I remember when the pandemic first hit, I think for me, I was a little bit of denial, like, oh, it can't be this bad. Oh, it's not going to be that long. Like, so I wasn't really taking anything very seriously. But when schools were, you know, the schools are being shut down and the kids were like, oh, we're just out for the rest of the year. You know, I started seeing a lot of hysteria on social media about, oh, kids are going to be behind. Your kids are going to fall into depression. And so, you know, as a parent, you know, myself, I'm like, okay, I'm an adult. I can adjust. As a mother, I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen to my kids? And I went into this state of frenzy. And then when I checked in with my kids, I was like, they were good. Like they were fine. They were adjusting well. But I mean, of course I had to check in, and I know it's not every parent, but I saw myself getting riled up by what I was reading and not even taking the time to say, okay, talk to your kids, see what they're going through. Like, just because this is happening doesn't mean that's your situation. And I think for a lot of things, you know, we sit here and read things and we get enraged by everything that we see, but we don't evaluate, is this really my situation? Is this something I need to be concerned about? Or am I just getting caught up in the emotions that I'm reading or I'm seeing? So I think it's important.
Yeah, that's real. I've had to make a real intentional decision to try to not allow my emotions to be controlled by my algorithm, right? So on my timeline, right? Facebook, Instagram, because you know your algorithm is feeding you information all day long, headlines, and it could influence how you feel, what you think. And so sometimes it's important to take a break from that and not allow yourself to consume so much information. It's important to consume and read and to be up to date, but when you allow yourself to be controlled by your algorithm, it's a dangerous path. Dangerous path.
I'm in because other people make you angry. You see what I'm saying? They mad, and before you know, I'm mad too. Why?
Chuck, I'm in a class right now that discusses addictions, and one of them, you know, he's asked everyone to pick out something in your life that you feel you're addicted or you do too much of, and see if you could hold that back for about 15 weeks. And for me, I chose CNN and major outlets. There's already a change in behavior because many of our outlets feed you how they want you to feel.
Yeah, they tell you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just did that to get Chuck mad. That's all.
Yeah, no. I you know, I
don't like those three letters.
Unfortunately, mainstream media, they do whatever corporations tell them to do.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you look at interesting. An independent reporter brought out, he thought it was interesting that all the major news outlets has one sponsor that is the same, and it's Pfizer. All of them. You see their commercials. This program brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah, we don't want to lose our sponsorship, Chuck, from Pfizer.
But the mainstream narrative, it does set kind of a pace and a control over, you know, society at large, and it's been that way for, you know, decades. But this is why, you know, Americans, and I say specifically Americans because folk in other countries have quoted, like, what is going on in the United States? Have they become dunderheads? Do they not think? Do they not, you know, take the time to research and to, you know, get the other side of the story or get more than what's being presented in mainstream media? But yeah, the narrative is set by them, and a lot of people end up, you know, that, and this adds to the stress.
It sure does.
Yep. They will particularly set a headline to really rile you up.
Sure.
This video will blank, make you feel blank. They're conditioning how you should feel.
Yeah. Can I just throw something out to you guys? And no, I'm not coming out. What I wanted to ask you all is, let's look at this word confronting for a second. Do you feel the need, and I want to ask those who are in our chat too, do you feel the need to confront those who don't believe or act, believe what you believe? And I'm talking about vaccinations, I'm talking about masks, I'm talking about going back to church. Do you feel that you need to confront people who don't think the way you think?
I'll answer. For the past 3 years, I've had the privilege of speaking and debating with my childhood friend and frenemy who disagrees with me politically. He looks like me, but he disagrees with me. He's on the other side of the spectrum. And I realize that no matter how many conversations we've had over the past 15 years, I cannot change his mind. All I can do is control how I respond. And so I think emotional intelligence is important because it's the ability to perceive, to understand, and manage your own emotions. So remember, you'll never be able to change somebody else's mind. If you can, congratulations. But it's very rare.
And thanks,
GP. You can't control how you respond. So
I got you.
You can engage, you can listen, you can learn, but don't waste your energy.
And one second before you do that, thanks, GP, for that. And I get it. I have walked into a grocery store, or I've walked into with a group of people who didn't have masks on, and I'm thinking to myself, where am I? Or what's happening here?
You already know.
Probably in one of the southern states, but
well,
I see
no, that's in PA too.
Yep, and it's here in Maryland too. The point I'm saying, the reason why I'm saying confronting, I'm not even necessarily talking about, and I agree, and I'm coming.
You talking about a stranger confronting a stranger?
It happens.
Oh no, I'm not trying to die. Oh no.
No, but there are people who are willing.
Oh yeah,
like, back up. You're too close to me. You don't have a mask on.
Yeah,
right. Just like that,
right.
And it pops off.
Yeah. You know what you doing over here?
I mean, but that I don't know if that's confronting somebody because they don't agree with me. I think that's confronting somebody because they got bubonic plague, and I'm trying to see if I can get through the end of the week.
Tally, if you go into Walmart or Target and someone is inside the store and there's no mask on their face, you kind of can guess
how they feel,
how they feel, right? And so by not wearing a mask, you're saying, I don't care about your safety or well-being, right? And so it can be a trigger just by what I see.
Oh, I agree with that. I'm saying, but I mean, because as Adventists, we are predisposed to feel that we need to confront people who don't agree with us. I mean, that's our evangelical bent. You know, what church? What day you go to church? Oh, I go on this day. I got something for you.
It's the right day.
Is that a pork chop you eating? Yeah. Well, let me tell you, what level of hell you going to exist in if you don't. But I mean, we're predisposed to that. Hey, Sister Jillian, I see that point there about that friend that you confront.
Yep. Every week.
But it is not. That's confronting. But the other one is, I think people have a right. To say to someone else, listen, I think that you're infringing your freedom to swing your fist ends at my freedom to protect my nose. And so you get the right to tell a person, would you please step back from me a little bit? I'm not comfortable with the fact that you're not wearing a mask. And one of them boogers in your nose right there looks like it's swarming around with pathogens that will kill me and my family.
Where's our graphics department? We need to flash these things up.
That's almost like the pastor with the spit. It's too much.
But GP, to speak to what you said about seeing people with no masks, it also could be that very same person that listened to Dr. Wolinski from the CDC that said, if you are vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask.
It's true.
So
or flip-flop.
But Chuck, that's now. I mean, that's now. We can see if it was then. It's now when everything is saying, wear your mask, get boosted. You know, like when you were speaking earlier tonight about, the spread of misinformation. There was a guy on Fox News, and he wasn't even a doctor, and he was like, the vaccinations don't work. They'll kill you. The boosters don't work. You don't need to wear the mask. And people hear this. That's how you have over 2,000 people dying every day.
Marlena,
think about how many people were affected by the statement from the CDC. Now, these are the officials. These are the authorities who said you do not have to wear.
Right.
No. But what I'm saying is, the point is that one individual may have heard that statement, have been vaccinated twice and boosted, and said, CDC said I don't have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Listen, if I'm vaccinated, I don't have to wear. Now, see, if you confront that person and you say, hey, you don't have a mask on, that person, based on their belief and their persuasion, will say, well, I don't have to wear a mask. I've vaccinated twice and I have a booster. So, the CDC, not Joe Rogan, not, InfoWars. CDC said this. Then they backtracked.
Right.
Right.
But that was also, I'm with you, Chuck. I'm with you. This situation is so fluid. Things are changing all the time because we haven't experienced this before, right? And so when you haven't experienced something, you remember medicine is practicing medicine. We practice medicine, right? Because you keep practicing until you get it right? And so you don't know what's going to happen when something is new. And so you can only go from what you know today. So if someone is living off of last year's information, you already behind the times. They even tell me with technology, when I get a computer, I keep it for years. And they say, oh, no, you got to change. This technology changes all the time. That's the same thing with health. You got to be up, with what's happening today. So if someone is saying that was being said that we didn't have to wear masks, that was before, and certainly not now. There's more information that's out to show, the safety of mask wearing. But I just want to say that when we're talking about confronting, as a pastor, we have the pulpit, and so we try to educate, and then I'm a healthcare professional too. And so we're trying to educate to keep people safe, right? And so you really can't change people's minds if they are swayed one way politically or if they're swayed one way religiously, because they feel that how they feel is so strong. And so there's no need in fighting. And I want to say there is no need in letting anything divide you from your family, from your friends. Don't let our differences of opinions cause broken relationships, broken friendships. You don't want to talk to me anymore because I'm the pastor and I'm preaching on you don't want to wear a mask, right? Let's not do that. Let's agree we just disagree.
Right.
And you got to know, I told my church, I told them from the pulpit, I'm not talking about COVID anymore. I said, I'm just going to come to your funeral and I'm going to say how wonderful you were. I'm going to say it. You were such a good person. I loved you.
I'm not going to talk to you anymore, but thou shalt die and not live.
I'm just saying, and what happens too when you haven't had a loved one to pass? Stop laughing, Pat. When you haven't had a loved one to pass, you don't know what it feels like. So you can say, oh, it doesn't matter. But when someone passes close to you, and let me tell you, it's a lot of Seventh-day Adventist Christians dying from this vaccination. It doesn't care whether you. I mean, pandemic. Not from the from the virus. No,
man, you scared.
Not vaccination, from the virus.
Let's pray. Let's pray. Because somebody go, Marlene.
Somebody hear that one, yeah.
Listen, the virus.
Hey, we about to go viral, y'all. We got to go viral.
Didn't I just tell you that COVID affected my memory? Didn't I just tell you that?
They gonna get on that soundbite. Watch.
Yep, that 5-second clip. Yep, we going viral, y'all. You made it.
Goodness. Yeah. But listen, guys, listen for real though. I'm talking too long because I gotta let some of you all take turns. But
that's kind of
this is just what I want to say. Let's not be divided in our love for one another, and understand why we push certain things. Some of us know a little bit more than you do. And when we see more and we know more, we have to share more because we love you. We're trying to keep all of us safe and alive because it does hurt, to see our church members, our family members pass. If you pass and you've done everything that you can, that's different. But when you neglect doing things because of something that you misunderstand, then it really does hurt. And so let's not be divided. We disagree. Let's just keep loving each other. Don't be mad because I step back a little bit. Don't get mad. Sometimes people, they don't want to wear masks, but then they want to be close to you. Well, we can't have both ways, right? So understand if, we've got to step back, pull back a little bit.
Can I be honest? I feel like emotional intelligence training should be mandatory for this nation. I feel like mental health counseling should be mandatory for everybody, like regardless of how you think you're doing. Like we all need these tools and resources to better manage our emotions. Go ahead.
And again, let me just say, I said it in the beginning, it's also crisis management. And I think that's one of the biggest, that sometimes we don't know how to approach a crisis. And to be honest with you, somebody said, what did we say? Somebody said religious and political. Yeah. That's another tie. We don't have time to get into that right now, but that's another tie that catches us on the angry side and the confronting side. Tyler, you was about to say something. We'll go ahead and give you some time.
No, I really wasn't. I was really just thinking about confronting a crisis, and I hadn't thought of anything to say yet.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to insert that. I just hope that we are learning our lesson from this pandemic.
Yep.
I'm sure we have learned things that we didn't know about family members. We're learning things that we didn't know about our children. We're learning things that we didn't know about our next door neighbor as a result of this.
Right.
And I just hope that we are that we are taking advantage of this opportunity that the Lord is giving us to instruct us and to wake us up and to reprioritize. I mean, something like this will really make you reprioritize your life.
Sure.
That's facts.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
No,
And-
you
Yeah, I
can-
know
you
the
can-
tech guy forgot to turn his phone off. Right?
yeah, but you were talking about we don't know how to manage crisis, but I think we don't even really know how to manage stress properly. I mean, and so crisis is like stress on steroids. So I think and Charles, you were talking about we've learned a lot about people around us, but I personally have learned a lot about myself and how I manage stress and some of the things that I found that I need to do to manage what's going on around me. And I don't want to ever be caught off guard. I feel like this pandemic has taught me I need to, and we talked about this with grief, I need to put strategies in place in my life when things seem okay, so that when things start to get a little fuzzy, I know where to go. I'm not like scurrying. I'm not like losing my mind. I'm not lashing out at people that I love, because I recognize my stress when it gets there and I go right into whatever strategies that I've put in place. And I think that's something we all need to learn how to do. Learn yourself, learn those stressors. I mean, we talked about it being fear, lack of control. Some people don't care about certain things, but there's certain things about yourself that when you lose that thing, you're going to go, crazy. If you know that about yourself, put strategies in place to help it. I think that's one of the things I'm taking away from, all these pandemic pressures.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Nick. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, I was listening to Latasha because I know that Latasha she is a person who manages things, and structures her way into things and tries to figure out structures.
Something coming. Something
Producer.
coming. Just get ready.
And that's a good thing,
It's called the setup.
We need those. We need those kind of people. But and this is totally theological here. But the very, very first lesson of man came to him on the first full day of his life. Adam and Eve were created as the shadows lengthened on a Friday. And the first thing they had to learn how to do was to not be in control.
Come on.
And God said, now this is before man even sinned, before anything had gone wrong. God said, you have to learn that sometimes things are not within your control realm. And here's a text I want to share with you. This is 2 Chronicles 36, verse 21. And it talks about what happened to Jerusalem when everything went out of control. The Babylonians came and burned up the city, broke down the wall, and took their treasures. And in verse 21, it says, to fulfill the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. As long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath. And what I'm learning from this pandemic is, and a lot of us have learned it, a lot of pastors not having to rush out in the morning and stay all day at the building. We've learned how to let go, and to realize, sometimes you just have to let things go.
Yep. And Nick, can I add this? You need to see someone, talk to a therapist, because let me tell you why.
You're talking to me individually now? Because I'll call Dr. Gordon right now.
And let me tell you the reason why.
Hey, Doc.
Let me tell you the reason why. Because I've done that and had a bit of guilt and shame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I know how pastors feel.
Oh, yeah.
Or any one of us, or it could be even teachers feel when they have to redefine what they're so used to doing. And then they're saying to themselves, wait a minute, I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing something. It makes you feel like you're lazy, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So I want us to be able to understand that guilt factor. Move away from that guilt factor and regenerate, especially on the Sabbath. And I don't mean to sound Adventist, Nick. I know what you've been saying, but the truth is that the pandemic has helped me to find me.
Yes. If any of you out there are feeling guilty because you have to rest on Sabbath, or even worse, if any of you out there can't wait for Sunday, remember in the old days when you were so glad when the sun set on Saturday because Sunday could come and you could rest? That is a perversion.
Okay.
Unless you were a Pathfinder leader.
Hey, you know why
True
Chuck,
that.
the
Sunday
reason why Chuck-
mornings, that's
the reason
right.
why Chuck said that because Chuck used to be a Pathfinder director.
Yeah,
That's why he's
Early
saying-
Sunday
so
morning.
you got nothing. You worked all Sabbath, and then on Sunday you
Right.
went
Exactly.
beast
But,
working.
but
you know?
listen, in all fairness, too, the only reason you work all Sabbath because they're not coming out any other day of the week.
Come on.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
So you
yeah,
got
we're
to do all
starting
your
another
ministry
show.
on Sabbath.
There comes another
Or
show.
if not, you're a dysfunctional church.
yeah, what we have learned now is that people that here's something that we've learned: the offerings have gone up.
Yeah.
Yep.
People are still very committed to their church, very committed to what they believe. They're not committed to the habits that we built around
That's
our
right.
supposed belief. So
The
we have to
culture.
learn now how to incorporate new beliefs, new practices around
Yes,
things
we
that we
do.
believe that don't
Right.
That's
necessarily
right.
involve old
That
habits.
is spot on. That's spot
Yeah.
on.
Embrace the shift.
Nick, we're friends.
And
I
you
wanna
know, I
ask-
think there are people who are not willing to admit
Yeah.
that they don't like the way the church
Mm.
is breathing, operating. It's only when you get into those conversations, in the potluck, and you'll say, I really don't like the way, and you can just fill in the blank. And then that person says, "Oh, you feel that way too? Oh, I've been feeling that way for years."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Well, guys, what are we doing with our youth departments post COVID? Because the youth don't come to church.
That's another.
Well, it's not post-COVID yet, but yes, it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle bringing them together. But what I'm seeing is that they are finding ways to gather outside and do things socially and spiritually over Zoom.
Mhm.
And so just
That's
because you
some
don't see them,
churches.
just because you don't see them in the sanctuary does not mean that they're not chasing after God or growing in God.
No,
But
I'm not
yes,
saying
there
they're
are
not.
some.
Yeah.
I'm
There are
not
some
saying
who
they're
won't
not
come
going
back.
after God. There's some who are not gathering with the Zooms. You might be having
Yeah, some aren't,
programs.
but some are.
Eh,
So
Here's what I'd like to share as a youth director, because let me just say this, Nick. I was about to ask you the question. Do you feel like because you because you retired during this crisis that, you have this syndrome as though you left people sinking?
Oh, man. I mean, I work with it. I mean, I have struggled the first 3 weeks. I struggled with an enormous sense of guilt of leaving my people in the wilderness, and
Right.
there was nothing I could do about it. I just had to carry it.
Right.
I mean,
And the
was
reason why
hard.
I asked you that, and thanks, Marlena, for asking that question, is because I feel exactly the same way. But the difference between Nick is that he went to the mountaintop and God took him. The difference with me is that I'm Joshua and I don't know what these giants are about. So so the truth is I have to rely on younger people or people who are hotter than me during this time to say, try this. So you're finding the youth ministries department or ministries keep trying things until something works. But let me give you the bright side of all of this.
Free therapy.
He said, God's in control.
Thank you, Doc.
Here, my number is 610. But let me share something with you. Many of these young people that you don't see are holding on to their spirituality.
Yep.
And they're getting rid of their religiosity.
Yes. Yes.
The culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We don't need the culture, but I still have Christ.
Right.
Yeah, I still have Christ.
Community.
Right.
So, right.
And that can impact.
And they're building their own community. Thank you for that. They're building their own community that won't say to them, you need to wear a mask in order for us to do this, or you need to be vaccinated.
You need to take off your earrings.
Or same thing. Same exact thing.
GP, what did I tell you?
I keep it like a TI is.
No, I'm with GP on that. I'm not getting on those young people.
Like Dave Chappelle said, you got to be careful keeping it real,
and here's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for prayer, because it's not just me. When I've talked to a bunch of youth directors down the line, we hit a brick wall somewhere, right? Because Pathfinders is no longer marching, outside, and the adventurers are no longer. So now you have to find a way. And some of these homes, I'm sorry to sit on this, but some of these homes have one computer. Remember, it's an economic thing also. So when the parents are watching GP at the Oranges,
They're at Oakwood. They're at Oakwood, Doc. No, they ain't watching us.
And what happens to their children? What do they watch? What's going on with them? Many of those households don't have iPads and all of this that's going on. So the truth is, it makes me frustrated, and it makes me seem like I want to say, hey, let somebody younger who can hang with this take over. So I get it. I get it. But I'm not going to be angry. You know why I'm laughing? Because all of y'all in the office know that that's when he get really angry and confronting. But just pray. I promise you, I will not push over any desks or none of that. Okay, Marlena?
May I just quote two more sentences from that article that I mentioned earlier this morning, and I will give that information out at the end of the show. But on what you were speaking to, and Marlena, Dr. Marcy says in her article, first, having at least one stable, responsive, and nurturing adult in a child's life is a huge protective factor.
Woo.
She says it doesn't have to be a parent, just someone who can convey to the child that they are important, valuable, and cared for.
Chuck, you said two things, but let me just jump on that. Do you understand why Christian education is so important? Right? Amen. You can't buy that, right? And I'm not saying that we have the ultimate best in the, but can you imagine that teacher that wakes up and prays that morning, and that teacher that says, okay, we're not doing math today, let me find out how my students are doing. That's when it becomes the greatest investment in sending them to Adventist schools. And why I say that, Chuck, I'm coming to you for number 2, and then we're gonna close down. The other thing is that what I don't do at home, or what I miss at home spiritually. Name those two things again, Chuck. Name that again. Not the. What do you say they need? It was two things.
They're important.
Yeah, they had to have. They need to have one responsible adult in their life. And she says it doesn't have to be the parent. Should be the parent, right? But it doesn't have to be the parent.
Right.
And that speaks to what you just mentioned. That
and community.
Our Christian educators are very important to our young people.
And our community and community.
Right.
And community. What's the second one, Chuck? I'm sorry, before we land this plane. What's the second one?
The second one, what?
Oh, well, okay then. Don't worry about it.
I think the second.
No, I read the
medical
article.
Marijuana. He said.
I read the article. I don't know, Tasha. Are you able to show that reference for this article? Because we've had a few people that asked.
Yeah, I
maybe we can put it in the description later.
Yeah, we can put it.
But for those of you that are listening, the name of the article is "How Stress and Anxiety Contribute to Youth Violence," and it was published on the 28th of January in Neuroscience News. So if you go to neurosciencenews.com, you'll see the article by Dr. Stephanie Marcy. So just so you know, because a few people were saying, "Who is the person? What article is that?" Yeah. I didn't prepare enough to give it to our executive producer to show up. But anyway, that's it.
Actually, listen up, everybody. The way I like to say this is that I always say, speak, Lord, in the stillness while we wait on thee. Hush our heart to listen in expectancy. And I think that when we get to the point of the calm, looking for the calm in this chaos, I think we need to spend some time with us, ourselves, meditation.
Right.
Come on, let's stop with this foolishness now about Eastern meditations and all that. We could have another show on that of especially us as Adventists who don't believe in meditation. It's time for us to get closer to God and listen to Him.
Amen.
He will bring us that calm that we need.
Yeah.
Mindfulness.
That's well said.
Walking.
Yeah, it's a verb, not a noun. When people say meditation, the first thing they think of is yoga and all. No, no. Meditation is an action. It is a verb. It is not a noun. It's not attributed to one religious group or thought.
I love that. So listen, I want to throw this back over to Latasha. I know some of you, especially like Nikki, want to go ahead and watch the game or see what's going on with the game.
Well, someone told me that My prediction that Cincinnati would come back, that it has come to pass, and they did, and they won.
Are you gambling, or are we doing a show on gambling?
We did that already.
Oh, we did that already? Because I know sports betting is really high right now, and I want to make sure that whatever you do, Nick, you return your tithe off of that.
Well, I bet you I will.
Oh, the Chiefs lost.
Yeah, so the Chiefs lost.
Go Niners, go Niners.
Hey. Latasha, I'm throwing it back over to you. Go on, take us away.
I'm sorry. Yes. So great.
What just happened here?
Sorry, I was just reading the chat. I like to read the chat, but great dialogue in the chat as well as with you all as always. I like someone was saying, it's good to just have these types of conversations. The more we are talking about these things, the more we become aware of how we feel, and the more we take time to find
who we are.
Who we are and what we need to manage those things, because we don't know. We're one grocery store trip away from cussing somebody out sometimes. So,
oh, have mercy.
But Latasha didn't just say that, did she?
I'm hoping I don't see her in
not my time.
Hold on.
Not me. I was talking about you guys.
She's talking about us. Okay, all right.
No, it's just important for us to stay prayed up and manage our stress well, because we know as long as we're in this life, we're going to have some measure of stress, and we got to do what we need to do to navigate.
Well, Exec PD, my final word is take care of yourself.
Yeah, boy.
And take care of your family.
Yep.
Amen. Amen. Right. Well said.
Okay.
Then after that, come take care of mine.
All right, guys. And if you have some comments, something you want to share that you didn't in the chat, we always like to hear from you. upset@aecsda.com. Make sure you're sharing this on all major we're on all major podcast platforms. Make sure you tell someone about us. We're out there. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, share with someone.
Shout out to all the listeners.
Subscribe on YouTube, click the bell.
Thank you, guys.
Follow us on Facebook. We really appreciate. We're here because of you guys.
That's right.
We really enjoy just dialoguing with you all, and so
yeah.
We do know that next month is Black History Month, and we have some exciting conversations coming up that we want you to be a part of. And I don't usually give them a little sneak peek, but Tally, tell them what we're going to be talking about next.
Well, next week we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the presence of what we commonly refer to as Black people in Scripture, who is, and who isn't.
Yeah,
we're going to debunk some myths here. All right,
we're going to debunk a little bit.
All right, cool. So make sure you guys tune in next week for that discussion, and read up, so that Tally's going to come with the knowledge. So you gotta be ready for that. All right, guys, it's been another great one. We'll see you next Sunday. Take care.
Yep, guys. Blessings. Bye, family.
Peace, everybody.
Come on with the hook.